Hi, welcome to the town meeting virtual warrant. My name is Austin Cyganiewicz, town manager in the town of Sutton. I'm here with Community Development Director Jen Hager. We're here to explain the contents of the town meeting warrant for the upcoming town meeting to be held on Monday, October 20th, 2025 at 7 p.m. at the Middle High School auditorium. As mentioned, there's 13 articles on the warrant, and we'll quickly roll through with a brief summary of each article. Starting with Article 1. This is a standard article every fall town meeting, which is to amend the FY 2026 operating budget. Oftentimes, when we are preparing our fiscal year budget, we make projections both on expenses, but most importantly, revenues. Significant changes that occurred for FY 26 was higher than anticipated Chapter 78 for schools, and also higher than anticipated new growth through the tax levy. So for a total of $213,150, we'll be raising revenues to also meet higher than anticipated expenses for our operating budget. Just to give you some highlights. For example, data processing, casualty insurance, and wages for new employees are higher than previously budgeted. We also have several capital articles that came in higher than planned for in the capital operating budget. School staff laptops, due to the impact of tariffs, are $60,000 higher than anticipated in May. The highway roller, initially budgeted for $10,000, is just over $14,000 higher than anticipated. And finally, we are allocating $20,000 for a stormwater study. Stormwater, the town has a municipal storm separate sewer system permit through the state and federal government, which is to discharge for our stormwater system. So the drains and catch basins that you see on many of the public roads, we actually have to have a permit to discharge water through that system, and we have to be in compliance with our federal permit. Funds are being allocated to make sure that we're in compliance for our current permit and the future permit. So that's Article 1. Article 2 is also a standing article in the fall, which is appropriating $390,000 to our other post-employment benefits trust fund. Jen laughs at me because other post-employment benefits is something that not a lot of people are familiar with. Other post-employment benefits are health and life insurance, other benefits for employees. It's a liability that we need to allocate for the future. Very similar to our pension liability, where we allocate funds every year. This is a new requirement for cities and towns to make sure that we're pre-funding that liability. The town has done very well to allocate funds and being very aggressive in funding that liability. This is a standing policy of the select board to allocate certain funds depending on our free cash level. So for this year, Sutton's free cash was certified at just over $3.9 million. When over $2 million, we allocate 10% of free cash. Hence why we're allocating $390,000 to this trust fund. As of June 30th, the town's OPEB trust fund balance is just over $6.5 million. That places us in the 75th percentile of our peers in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's something that should be recognized as a good effort for the town in taking this liability seriously. Article 3, another standing article per select board policy, is allocating $100,000 from free cash to the Special Education Tuition Stabilization Fund per select board policy. So standard every year, after we close the fiscal year, we take a look at what the town has received for Medicare receipts, and anything in excess of what has been budgeted is allocated towards special education tuition. This, again, is another forward-thinking stabilization fund that was established by the town to allocate funds to offset any impacts of higher than anticipated special education costs for the schools. So for this year, the town's net Medicare receipts were just over $100,000, hence why we're allocating $100,000 to this special ed tuition stabilization fund. Article 4 is paying prior year bills. Oftentimes, cities and towns, our fiscal year closes on June 30th. Oftentimes, we do not always receive invoices from our vendors before June 30th. So for this year, there are 2 invoices, one for the police department for cruiser maintenance, just over $4,700 for maintenance on a police cruiser. The invoice was not received in time. And another is paying a school employee for back wages. This employee was incorrectly placed at the wrong step for a prior fiscal year. So just around $7,300 will be allocated to pay that employee for what is owed due to being placed at the wrong step on the wage scale. Article 5 is allocating $17,000 for the replacement of the recording system for the police department's state 911 system. The town several years ago was notified by the state 911 department that the department would no longer be covering the expenses and providing the recording system for the 911 service, and the town is required to absorb the costs and own the system outright. So the requirement to do so is by December 31st of this year, hence why we're requesting funds to purchase the system. We will be maintaining all of our data as well as the same system that we're currently using now. Article 6 is a large article. It's requesting $850,000 from free cash as a supplemental appropriation for the Rescue 1 truck that was allocated $1 million in capital funds at the May town meeting earlier this year. At the time, the capital plan included $1 million due to a belief in prior year capital plans that $1 million would be the cost of the vehicle. There's been a tremendous change in the market for fire trucks. This has been covered in the Commonwealth and across the country for the impact of tariffs and consolidation of private equity markets and businesses that supply fire trucks to fire departments. It's actually being covered at a congressional testimony at the federal level. So unfortunately, Sutton is in a position where we're buying a new fire truck and the price is nearly doubled. So this $850,000 will be the cost of the replacement of the rescue truck. And the estimated time frame for delivery is just about 2 years from signing the contract to purchase the vehicle. Article 7, I'll turn over to Jen to explain. Article 7 is requesting $14,000. Article 7 and 8 are requesting funds for the repair of a solar system. Jen, if you want to talk about that a little bit more.
All right, Sutton is a green community. We've been a green community since the inception of the Green Community Program back in 2011. And to date, this town has brought in well over $1 million in green community funds. And one of the initiatives as a green community was to reduce our dependence on carbon-based fuels and by implementing clean energy projects. So we did a number of solar photovoltaic systems on various town buildings, including the Manchog Fire Station, as well as the wastewater treatment plant, the senior center, all of our schools, and we even have solar PV on the carport roof at the new police station. So over time, the systems get wear and tear, and both the wastewater treatment plant and the Manchog Company 2 fire station are seeing a significant reduction in production from both some panel issues as well as kind of inverter and wiring type issues. So we have sought an estimate to address those issues, and that has come in at about $14,300. So Article 7 is to fund those repairs. Then we will be making sure we have a regular maintenance schedule to keep up the systems, because even though they've been up for quite a while, well over 10 years at this point, they are anticipated to get at least another 10, if not 15 years of useful life. So that is what Article 7 is about for wastewater treatment plant and Manchog fire. So Article 8 is repair of the solar photovoltaic system on the elementary school early learning center roof. So that is a 200 kW system, and over the last 2 years, we've slowly watched production drop on that system. It normally produces about an average of almost 223,000 kilowatt hours per year, and this year we anticipate it will only produce about 33 and change thousand kilowatt hours this year. So this year alone, we're anticipated to lose between the Class 1 REC credits we get for producing renewable energy and the actual additional electricity costs we've had to pay. We anticipate that's cost the town almost $44,000 this year. So we have an alternative to take the system offline. But if we take the system offline, then we will lose an anticipated another $7,000, almost $8,000 in solar renewable energy credits and increased electricity costs just for that school. So if you do a cost-benefit analysis on that, even if you include a $5,000 a year maintenance plan to make sure we kind of keep up with the maintenance on these solar panels, the payback years is about 5.18 years, and we anticipate filing for a green community grant. If we're successful in that grant, which we have been every time we've applied for it, so we're fairly confident, although there's no guarantee. If we get that grant, the payback period, even considering the maintenance cost, goes down to just a little bit over 2 years, 2 to 2.5 years. So considering we're thinking we're going to get at least another 10, if not more years out, it just makes a lot of sense to maintain these significant savings we've been getting with the system and continue to kind of stay behind what the town committed to when we became a green community so many years ago. All right, Article 9. So we have done several bridge replacement projects with Mass DOT over the years. Blackstone Street Bridge was done a number of years ago. We are in the process of replacing Depot Street Bridge as we speak. And the next one in line that we are fortunate to have the cooperation of the state to provide funding for is the Manchog Road Bridge, which spans between the Manchog Post Office and District 5 along Manchog Road. So that bridge is hopefully going to be in a position to go out to bid next year. And step one of that process is to get appraisal on the permanent and temporary easements that we will need to get this work done. The state will be covering the cost of the actual bridge reconstruction, which for this bridge is anticipated to be around $17 million. The town's only commitment is to get the appraisal of and pay the acquisition cost for the land-related easements. So we will be requesting $10,000 in Article 9 for an appraisal firm to complete the appraisal for temporary and permanent easements. Next spring, there'll be an article based on these appraisals to pay out the related landowners for those temporary and permanent easements. And that will basically sum up the majority of the costs the town will put towards this project, where the state is pitching in through state and federal funds, like I said, at least $17 million. So, hand it back to you for Article 10.
That's exciting. Article 10 is a request of the Board of Assessors Office to adjust the income and asset limits for married couples under the Clause 41C exemption. So if you are age 70 or older after July 1st, you can qualify for 41C senior exemptions for $1,500 off of your tax bill. Unfortunately, some of the income and asset limits are a lot lower than what most or many senior families or married couples in Sutton actually have. So the request is to adjust the income limits allowed by state law. So the income limits would be increased from $23,495 to $30,000, and the asset limits from $46,726 to $55,000. The goal of this is to increase the amount of tax exemptions for seniors in Sutton. If you have a question, why are we just only talking about married couples? So there are also income and asset limits for single individuals in the town of Sutton. Those asset limits already exceed what is required by state law. So every year we're allowed to increase them by a cost of living adjustment. The increases for singles have been increased beyond the max cap. So if we were to adjust that income and asset limit, it'd actually be lower than what we already have now. And we don't want to do that because we want to maximize the amount of exemptions for our seniors in the community. Article 11 is a request of the sewer department for $40,000 to be transferred from sewer connection fees from our retained earnings to complete an infiltration and inflow analysis for sections of the Wilkes sewer system in Orchard Hill Estates and Leland Hill Road. This is a requirement from the Mass Department of Environmental Protection, which is a permit, which is the agency that issues a permit to our sewer system. We have to conduct a thorough analysis of our sewer system for I&I, essentially leaky pipes. It's probably the best way to describe it,
Yes.
right, Jen? And we have to make sure that all of our pipes are in compliance with DEP's I&I limits. So we conduct this routinely. Many communities are conducting it every year. This is an area that has been identified by the sewer department and DEP to conduct this analysis. This analysis will be reported back to DEP and also reported publicly on our sewer department page as well.
Great.
Article 12 is a big zoning article. I'm going to turn it back over to Jen.
Okay. All right. Article 12 is the MBTA Multifamily Overlay District, known in Mass General Law Parlay as Chapter 40A, Section 3. So, what is this? So, what is the MBTA Multifamily Overlay District law? So, this law is a law that requires 177 communities that have or are adjacent to communities with MBTA service, so that's bus service or train service, to designate a portion of their town where multifamily housing at a particular density can be constructed, and to not only designate that district, but to formulate a bylaw that outlines the application and the approval process within that district. So this law does not mandate the production of any housing. It just mandates that the town have an area where this particular type of housing could be constructed. All right, so 140 communities to date have submitted everything they need to be in compliance. I think it's about 117 of those have been confirmed in full compliance. And so there's one more group of towns that need to be in compliance by the end of this year. So by December 31st is the last deadline to be in compliance. And all adjacent small communities like Sutton need to be in compliance by that date. So so what's Sutton doing about it? So the planning board, who basically under law has jurisdiction over zoning laws, appointed a housing production plan update working group. They appointed them last December, and that group of 15 different individuals and myself as their staff support worked for over 6 months straight, many meetings over 6 months straight, to update the town's housing production plan. And one of the things they focused on was what the town should do about this MBTA housing law. So the group decided in the majority that the best course of action with relation to this law was to comply with the law. So they worked to formulate an overlay district and a bylaw to be in compliance with the law. The district they chose was 3 parcels. The 3 parcels are going to be better known to Sutton residents as the parcel that contains Market 32 and the 3 small retail strips, one that has Bruno's Pizza in it, one that has Starbucks, and one that has Five Guys. If you're not a restaurant person like me, there's a dentist, there's a hairdresser, and there's another dentist. So the second parcel is where Convenient MD is located, the brand new emergency health center. And the third parcel is where Mickey's Car Wash is, as well as the multi-unit structure that contains the dialysis center, Love to Play, and Sherwin-Williams. So that is the overlay district, those three parcels. That is the only place where you could potentially do, or a developer could potentially do this type of housing. The bylaw that the group formulated gives the application and approval process, and as also allowed by law, really hones in on design. So you may have heard some press where people are saying, oh my gosh, this law forces high-rise, crazy, 500-unit high-rise buildings. That just isn't the case. Basically, the law allows you to have some design regulations that, as long as you meet the units per acre requirement, which in Sutton's case is 15 units per acre, that you can really craft the bylaw to fit in many ways to be better aligned with your community and what your community looks like. So for instance, Sutton requires 30% open space in developments in this bylaw. We require no more than 3 stories for housing within this bylaw, and there are other design standards that we've kicked in this draft bylaw to make this development, should it ever occur, fit in better with the town of Sutton. We've also located this district using smart growth principles. So that means we've located this higher density housing where water, sewer, and in this case natural gas is available, as well as along a really good transportation corridor. Route 146 and Boston Road are 2 of the highest capacity roadways in the town of Sutton. So the committee did look at 5 other sites with those same principles in mind, and this site was seen to be the best parcel to be in compliance with little or no impact to the town. Why is that? Because, as I just stated, there are already multiple buildings, relatively new buildings, located on all of these sites. So while there's a possibility you could do some housing above Five Guys or above the dialysis center, that's not necessarily likely. But there is the potential there, and somewhere down the line you could knock down a building and then do some multifamily housing. So it's not likely in the near future. But if it were to be done at some point, again, this is the best location in terms of availability of services, in terms of infrastructure, as well as being next to local services to serve residents in these units, as well as being on great transportation corridors. So again, no production mandate, only have to designate a district. So in effect, if you vote yes on this article, you're basically saying, we're just keeping the town in compliance. We've designated an area, we have a bylaw. We actually went through the process of pre-adoption approval with the state to make sure they didn't see any huge issues with the bylaw, and have only made some minor adjustments to the bylaws since then to make sure we're still in that same advantageous position. So a yes vote would be, we've got a district, we've got a bylaw, we are in compliance with the law. In this particular case, not likely to be much impact, if any, at least not in the near term. A no vote would mean, no, I don't think we need to be in compliance. The problem with that is, or the effects of that are that the town will lose the ability to apply for any number of grant resources. Grants like the mass development grant that we just got, that was $3.6 million, that paid for most of the cost for a new sewer pump station and lines in Northeast Sutton, or the $2.5 million grant we got for to partner with Eversource to do a new natural gas gate station and line that allowed Prime Metals and other businesses to move into the industrial park in South Sutton. And so those are grants we can't even apply for, and then we get points off. We are less competitive significantly on other grants like the Green Community Grant we will apply for to pay for part of our solar. And park grants. We've renovated Unity Park. We've renovated American Legion Park. We've renovated Van Dyke Park all in the last 5 years. We would not be nearly as competitive, if at all, able to get that kind of funding. So that's one potential financial impact. And the second financial impact is that you would open the town up to litigation. So both fair housing litigation as well as potential legal action from the Attorney General's office for non-compliance with a standing Massachusetts general law. So, again, yes vote, there's a district, we may or may not see something in the near or long term, there is no requirement to build housing, or no vote, we're not in compliance, and as a result of being in non-compliance, we lose access to a bunch of different state funding, and or less eligible to get other pools of funding, and we open ourselves up to potential litigation. So those are really the two choices that are before voters on this article. Back to Article 13.
Thank you. Final article, Article 13, is a request from the Highway Department for $70,000 for the purchase and equipping a new pickup truck for the highway superintendent. Now you may be asking, hey, didn't we just appropriate money a few years ago for a new highway superintendent vehicle? The answer is yes. And we did appropriate $55,000 and received a $7,500 rebate for the purchase of an electric F-150 Lightning for the highway superintendent. Historically, the highway superintendent vehicle was an administrative vehicle. Wasn't used for towing, wasn't used for plowing. We now have a new highway superintendent who, for all intents and purposes, is the snow and ice guru, and tends to be very active in his role as superintendent and working alongside the crew for the highway department. It's a request of the superintendent to replace that vehicle with a vehicle that can be equipped with a plow so he can operate in all seasons and assist the crew with various snow and ice and all kinds of efforts for the responsibilities for the highway department. Now the question may come is, what are we going to do with the Lightning? So the Lightning will be transferred to the land use departments, primarily used by the building department for inspectional services work, going on job sites, but can also be used for other inspectional land use departments. Jen may be driving it, or folks in our conservation department as well, to do various site visits and inspections for land use purposes. So the transfer will be made upon receipt of the new vehicle for the highway department. And that's Article 13. Those are the brief descriptions of all 13 articles. There's a lot of information here. All of this information will be available on the town website, www.suttonma.org, especially related to Article 12, the MBTA. There's a lot of information, all the work from the Housing Production Plan Committee, and all the work by the Planning Board and Jen in her office is available online. Of course, you may have questions, and that's great. You can email my office, manager@town.sutton.ma.us, and happy to receive those questions on any of these articles and forwarding to the right agency or department that can answer those questions for you as well. We look forward to seeing you on October 20th at town meeting. If you have any questions in the meantime, please reach out, and thank you for tuning in to the virtual town meeting warrant.